We're with John Ellsworth today of Success Strategies. John, our topic today is one that you feel is of great importance, and I think probably every businessman and business person feels is critically important, and that's cash flow. You have a piece on your website that talks about that. Just tell us what that entrepreneur at McDonald's, Ray Kroc, said that you feel has some relevance to cash flow.
Sure. Thank you, Joel. This actually is one of my favorite quotes, and Ray Kroc, he's not the founder of McDonald's, but he was the one that franchised it and took it to the heights that it's at today. He said, he was referring to the hamburger, and he said, I didn't invent the hamburger. I just took it more seriously than anyone else. And I think the reality is, I read that quote again, and I read it periodically. I really liked the quote, and I thought, you know what? That's kind of what I've tried to do with clients in their cash flow analysis. I didn't invent the process. Accounting and in general and cash flow analysis was invented long before I entered the earth. But the reality is, I think the last probably 13, 14 years since I started doing that with clients on a regular basis, I've probably taken it more seriously than most folks. And I think the benefits are coming through. And as you said, this is critical to any business and their survival. They have to know exactly where they are month to month. And that's, it takes some time, but it doesn't take that much time, and the rewards are immense, as I'm seeing with people, current clients that have improved measurably in their cost per hundredweight and things like that. And the key is getting on it as soon as possible, like on a monthly basis.
You call it the lifeblood of any business, and I think we can all appreciate that. You have an example or two in your recent piece about the value of tracking cash flow. Just talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I call it the lifeblood of any business, and this doesn't have to be a dairy. This, as you said, it could be your business, could be my business, any business. But on a positive note, just staying ahead of the curve, and especially in the dairy industry the last 4 years prior to, we've seen some upturn this year, and hopefully it's going to continue to get better the rest of 2019. But the 4 years before that, 15, 16, 17, and 18 were just a bear. And if you weren't watching costs, your lifeblood dried up on you, and the cash flow is the answer. You can only finance losses for so long. And on a less positive note, ask anyone who's trying to get refinanced, even in the more positive year in 2019. And I can attest to this with some of my clients, it's been very challenging to get the refinancing completed. I empathize with anybody that's going through that process, because it's pretty tough. But the other points that I made in the article were, if you're ever short on cash flow, like we have in the last 4 years in the dairy industry, it's something your banker is going to remind you that he or she wishes you had more of. And the reason is because ultimately they do want to get repaid. All bankers are very positive about putting loans out there, but ultimately they want to get repaid. Or at a very minimum, they want some revolving debt going on, paying down, borrowing back, but not forever, just, for in the times that you really need it from a cash flow perspective. The other points I made were that you need cash flow to grow. You need cash flow to expand your business. And that may not be necessarily only getting bigger, a bigger herd operation, but it could be putting in efficiency measures, whether it's robotics or something like that. Whatever it is that you want to improve the efficiencies with in your operation, you need cash to pay for those things. Either pay cash up front, or more likely pay on a lease or a long-term loan for those. I think, and I've seen people trying to think how to say this in a positive way, during the 2015 to 2018 period, people have really felt beat up, not physically, but mentally. So I think it's the key, having at least sustainable cash flow levels is the key to, I call it, maintaining your business sanity. I know one thing, if I didn't cash flow, I'd get real concerned. And there are some months in my business where we spend more than we bring in because of seasonal type of expenses that we incur sometimes. And just the timing of those, like insurance, things like that we pay for on an annual basis. But if you don't have the ongoing cash flow, it can get to your head after a while. And I think that's true for any business, and not just dairies, but any business. And then ultimately, the final reason is you got to have some positive cash flow if you ever want to sell your business. And eventually, all businesses, including yours and mine, get sold to somebody, whether it's after we're gone or while we're heading into retirement or whatever. I think, or just even past to the next generation, all businesses get transferred to another party. And I just have to ask you one question: why would anybody buy it if it's losing $100,000, $200,000 a year? I mean, that would be a poor investment on the part of the buyer. So that ultimately is the fifth and not necessarily most significant, but that one reason why we need positive cash flow. We need to know where it is in terms of your cash flow levels in your business.
Well, John, thank you. I think we can all appreciate the fact that cash flow is the lifeblood of the business. And in your work with your clients, you not only can track it, but I think one of the things that you can do for folks is you can help them make the changes in their farming operations to improve the cash flow. You've got a phrase that you often quote about measuring, understanding leads to control. And when you can control it, you can improve it.
Yeah, and I'd like to comment on, I want to give Dan Sullivan, my business coach, credit for that. That's his quote. I got it from him. And he may have gotten pieces of it somewhere else. I don't know. He'll have to give them credit. I don't know who that was. But Dan says if you can measure something, and I think cash flow is a perfect example of this, you can understand it. In other words, you can understand where you might be high on expenses, where you have room for improvement, if you will. If you understand it, you can control it, because you lose total control when you don't understand it. The opposite of that is when I understand what's going on in my cash flow of my business or any dairy operation, for example, then I can control it. And you can't control everything, but there is always something you can control. And if you can control it, you can improve it. And all I have to do for an example of that is to take a look at clients who maybe their cost per hundredweight on supplies was 95 cents a hundredweight. And I go, whoa, that is really high. And today they're at 65 cents or 55 cents even in some cases. And people take a good look at those things. And I think that's why I take it so seriously, because ultimately with poor cash flow, everything seems like an uphill battle. And when you have cash flow, you have one fabulous tool on your side. And I would say that is you have options. You can do 1, 2, 3 things, whatever you want to do. You can look at different scenarios and you'll get the support of your financing institution, your bank. So I think that's a pretty awesome position to be in.
Well, thank you, John. We appreciate that. And folks can contact you through your website at success-strategies.com.
Correct. Thank you.
We're speaking today with John Ellsworth. This is Joel Hastings for DairyBusiness.com.